You want to drop the number of murders. You want to drop the number of rapes. You want to drop the number of armed robberies. Have more people with concealed carry permits in your state. The data out there is clear. It's been out there for decades now. Maybe if children would learn that life is meaningful and every one of us is valuable, then people will change their mindset. Today's desensitized youth don't remember that it's permanent. When someone dies, then we wouldn't have these problems we have today. One way to teach them this would be to set an example. An example of not commercializing this tragedy for personal gains of a political party. Don't you agree? If you'd like to support the victims of the Florida high school shooting, then please donate to their GoFundMe Victims Fund.
The latest development on security clearances at the White House is that John Kelly, the Chief of Staff, has issued a memo to White House staff advising that there are going to be new procedures for awarding security clearances.
Because of the internet and because of social media. So it's a much more powerful effect of what they've been able to accomplish now.
Final clearances yet, as we've reported, there are dozens of such people. So if you have been hanging around the White House for 7 or so months waiting for your final clearance to come through, that you've been operating with this interim.
At Real Savira. Breaking: Nicholas Cruz was investigated after cutting himself on Snapchat. State report shows that is a suicidal act. Now, was he not institutionalized, he would have been barred from buying weapons. Nicholas Cruz, suspect in Florida school shootings, cut his arms on Snapchat and said he wanted to buy a gun in September 2016, prompting an investigation by sheriff's deputies and adult welfare.
And he can get accesses to things like the president's daily intelligence briefing.
At Jack Pasovi, the Russians cannot be allowed to interfere in another election, demand voter now.
For a senior White House official to have that high
at Cernovich, the FBS new motto: forget the children, protect the Clintons.
We don't know for sure why it's taken this long for the FBI to finish Kushner's background check, but the most obvious issue stems from both his extensive financial dealings and his contact
liberals who have been living on the dream that they could somehow get rid of President Donald Trump if Special Counsel Robert Mueller were to find.
When you're applying for a security clearance, people who've been through this process before talk about
this
incredibly arduous undertaking where you've got to think back and remember many of the foreign people that you
at Kurd of 1973, at FB, the FB can't find the motive behind the Las Vegas massacre. Colton T. track a YouTuber who used his real name before committing mass murder at a school. Didn't investigate young female gymnasts raped by Dr. Colton T. find 33K missing emails. What has had the FB so busy?
3 different times. And we know from our reporting that beginning
at Funder, Trump is on another taxpayer-funded Mar-a-Lago vacation. No president should get every weekend off, especially with so many crises in America. They also shouldn't get this many vacations. It is beyond absurd, but it is what happens when a fake president is lazy and truly corrupt.
Pending since June 2017 and before. These new rules would say that Jared Kushner's interim clearance is going to be revoked a week from Friday. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. But certainly it seems like this whole issue of him working on an interim clearance is really coming to a head and getting addressed now.
George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley joins us tonight. Professor, Facebook trolls? I mean, I'm not for that, but I'm a little disappointed that that appears to be the sum total of this.
Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it? I mean,
I am sick of you claiming to speak for responsible gun owners.
March and saying, well, those 12 guys really did a lot. I mean, you didn't really have to send these guys to the United States to divide us politically.
On Thursday, MSNBC host Katie went on a factless emotional rant aimed at manipulating people when she spewed multiple lies about guns in Europe.
Throwing protests on opposing sides. And it's just striking how little
brilliant strategy by Mueller to go after Russia first in the Trump Russia probe neutralizes Trump as witch hunt claims before it closes in on him too.
This indictment is one adjective: unwitting. You know, after a year, after all these plea agreements, after all these interviews, they really don't have any evidence of anyone knowingly engaging with Russians, not even mentioning the Trump Tower meeting where they knew they were Russian. So there doesn't seem to be any there after a year.
But to get a deal, I think it's worthwhile.
So we're getting close to 20 indictments so far, and none of them
just for political power
speak directly to the underlying charges. I mean, their perjury, their money laundering, their failure to register as a foreign agent. I mean, I'm not saying they're insignificant, but they're skirting the edge of insignificant. Are we going to get actual charges against anybody, would you say?
At the Olympics. Nailed it.
Well, that is
Best of us.
what's also striking about this. The charges themselves are actually quite
At
conventional. Things like
Poll on Bernie
identity
Sanders
theft,
Russia. The Mueller indictments affirm what most people knew Russians held Bernie Sanders. Should we acknowledge it, disavow their assistance, and provide a better explanation for being one of only 2 senators to vote against Russia sanctions?
With an election, it's just that the evidence of any success in that seems quite minimal. I mean, people have criticized Rod.
Just another childish partisan stunt by CNN's media cheerleader.
The election. But I think that what he was saying was this: we haven't really found anything quite significant in these activities. Now, having said that, we should be concerned about the
CNN Russian indictments. NBC Russians interfered with election app. Russians helped Trump Fox chocolate cake recipes.
Wouldn't I know? Because if God actually wanted me to run, wouldn't God kind of tell me? And I haven't heard
what this indictment actually shows, if anything, was that this foreign operation wasn't some practical joke. This wasn't a prank call. This wasn't a lark. This was a Russian intelligence operation. This was Russian intelligence at its most ambitious. This was expensive.
He was fair game.
In the indictment today, they say that the budget for this was more than $1 million a month. It was expensive. It was extensive. It was well thought out. It was run by professionals. And it was effective. And so, yeah, we need to harden ourselves as a target, yes. But we also need our own professionals. We need the full force of the U.S. government going after these guys to protect us against operations like this.
She's kind of apologized for that.
When they do it.
Mike Pence said it's,
to stop them when they mount operations like this that target the American public so aggressively. I mean, this indictment today was a surprise in so many ways, just like all the other indictment days have had their surprises. But the biggest surprise that I had after covering this story so closely for this whole freaking year now, the surprise for me personally was that hearing these charges and hearing what they were charging these Russians for,
powerful black liberal
it was the
woman,
first time
it's okay. If
that I felt
Vice President Pence
like
says
finally,
it, he's cray-cray,
for the first
and
time
he's
since
really
we realized all this was happening. Finally, it feels like somebody is defending us.
If Oprah had said that she
going
was
after them.
going to yoga and trying to wait
taking
for
seriously what they did
and
showing,
Buddha,
not incidentally, showing what this adversary is designed for and capable of and still working on for our election this year.
Is reserved for
finally, somebody is defending us and taking it seriously and doing something about it.
Par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear
That
Joy
alone,
Behar
for me,
cannot
today is the
stand
biggest shock.
Mike Pence. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that he could do right. But I thought his comment was very forceful, and she obviously alienated
At CNN, Russia bots are promoting program messages on Twitter in an attempt to sow discord in the aftermath of a Florida school shooting. Monitoring groups say
most of us pray and we wait for signs from God, and this is a party that lost the heartland, that lost working class Americans.
The attack could be a city bus or car. Any of people know if there's a city bus in Blackwell area with cameras here.
Thought on Allie Reisman's picture.
So I think girls are getting all kinds of mixed messages.
If it is a federal crime for foreigners to interfere in U.S. elections, when can we expect the indictment of Christopher Steele, who lied to federal officials and fed them false information?
Is being diluted and hijacked by Sports Illustrated Swimsuit. They have a very commercial purpose, and I think they've hijacked the Me Too movement through Allie. She's allowed that to happen, and I think it's really unfortunate.
She says on her body,
UFO
you don't have to be
WTF.
modest
There's like an
to be
invasion.
respected.
Oh my God.
And I think she's saying, that she has the power to decide or not whether or not she wants to show off her amazing physique that way.
It is
and
amazing.
She decided to do it, and that's her right.
Yeah, she has a right to do that, but again, it's a very important message that I think is getting lost. She also said, if I have a minute here, she said in the interview when she was asked about it, you should be able to walk down the street late at night
as a former prosecutor, I find it significant that the Deputy Rosenstein specifically chose to repeat the word misindictment instead of saying this investigation. His very specific word choice suggests there may be other indictments that include Americans who
I want her to take
conspired.
personal resposibility for her safety. That's empowering to me.
At Jack Pasobi,
Mother of 8.
liberalism
God
is
bless
a
you.
mental
Good to
disorder.
see you tonight. We'll be up early in the morning. We'll be watching. Thank you.
Tell me more about how abortions are wrong.
Breaking tonight, President Trump is about to arrive at the Broward County Sheriff's Office. What happened in Florida has upset and shocked us all.
At Carl Higby, at Real Stay Reader Hero. Okay, trolls, let us hear your justification to this.
Media play in this debate, though.
As students walk out, calling all students in response to the Florida shooting, there will be a nationwide walkout held next week. Take action. Start planning with friends and classmates. Spread the word. Walkout time date to be released by Monday the 19th.
Nothing big is going to be gotten done.
People who are saying, oh, it's not the time to talk about guns or whatever. Yes, it is. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. It absolutely is.
I agree this is a mental illness issue because if you don't think we need to do something about it, you're obviously mentally ill.
Joining me now, Howie Kurtz, host of Media Buzz, author of Media Madness, Donald Trump, the Press, and the War Over the Truth. Howie, that was a mix. Obviously, Jimmy Kimmel is not a reporter, but we did see some journalists and hosts of their
prosecutors say they have found additional criminal conduct by the former Trump campaign chairman.
I guess in some ways it's tough not to get emotional during the course of covering these events in some ways.
Well, I don't have a problem with journalists saying...
The Auto Alliance would cleaner no. Nissan and Mitsubishi is probably the most advanced and profitable car maker when it comes to producing electric cars. The company has CEO told CNBC Friday.
Headline, Mr. President, do something, tells you something about the emotions, but I do have a problem with
at Tucker Carlson, at A. Tammy Brook, at Fox News 13722.8. The signing part of my interview with at A. Tammy Brooks from Tonight Tucker at Fox
The
News.
school actually managed to expel him, which is not easy to some degree. And yet, and then we have the YouTube blogger, and we have whoever this other individual was in January, turning him in. The universe did its job. The citizenry, the normals, did their job in recognizing him and stating it and vocalizing it. And when it got to the federal level, Tucker, they shrugged. It's not like they missed it. I hear this in describing that they missed it or it was a failed opportunity. They had the information. They didn't miss anything. There was a deliberate decision somewhere to not follow up. And even when we know when this fellow bought his gun, you don't need, when it was on social media using his real name, and we're not even law enforcement, but we know that, look, wouldn't you run the name through everybody who got a background check to purchase firearm, then you would have found him. You would at least, it would take, 5 minutes to put the order in to run the background check. These are the things that we know exist. We saw something, we said something. So here's the problem, Tucker, is when we're told that there's going to be more information, we should do more, we should have more laws. And none of it will matter if when we get to the federal level, everything collapses. So this is not only should Ray resign, but this is malfeasance that has contributed at least to the death of 17.
1994. That's more than the NRA, Martha, is the reason that even Barack Obama and Joe Biden couldn't get a single gun control measure through Congress during their years.
So true, Howie. 30% of Americans, or about 100 million Americans, own a gun.
If you need to deposit checks, check your balance or transactions, or transfer money between accounts, do it with the Navy Federal mobile app. Go try it out.
I'm not done.
Or try it out later. Download the Navy Federal mobile app today. Open to members of the Armed Forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Message and data rates may apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Cloudy sky and washed out colors gave an extra tone of sadness on Friday to the fitting cloudy sky and washed out colors gave an extra tone of sadness on Friday to the fitting send-off of the crew members of the stricken Iranian oil tanker Sanchi. The vessel burned for more than a week after an incident in the East China Sea on January 6, and despite international efforts to find the missing crew members, it sank on January 14. The crew consisted of 30 Iranians and 2 Bangladeshis.
Officials and family members also descended on Tehran's Imam Khomeini prayer hall to pay their last respects. Family members say they are proud their fathers, brothers and husbands are seen off in true Iranian style.
The coffins were draped in Iranian flags, and those who organized the service paid tribute to the many who took the time to attend the funeral and say goodbye. The service concluded after the national heroes were sent off to their final resting places in different parts of the country.
I'd like to thank everyone for taking part in this funeral. They showed immense compassion towards us. The Sanchez crew left like heroes. I wish I could see my missing husband one last time.
My husband loved his family. He never missed his son's birthdays. I feel relieved that my husband's funeral takes place today. I feel so bad that the families of the other victims are waiting. Their beloved ones are still missing and they don't have a clue.
I would like to thank the worshippers for taking part in this magnificent funeral procession.
The sinking of Sanchi is one of the worst maritime disasters in recent years. The ill-fated tanker was carrying about 1 million barrels of ultra-light crude oil from Iran
Barack
to
and Michelle
South
Obama reporters unveiled in Washington News DW World 2.2018.
Crystal, a Hong Kong registered ship carrying
Grandma
wheat from the
Force
United
by
States.
South Africa,
The
stagnant
area
economy,
where the
French
ships
24.
collided is now known as the New Bermuda Triangle because at least 33 ships were lost
Berlin
in the
Holiday
area.
2018 NEPA jury film DW 16.2018.
Has set up a special task force to investigate the incident. Amar Naderi, Press TV, Tehran.
Goldman Sachs CEO Blankfein received a $2 million pay bump in 2017. Let's take a look around. Look at this. The Google Chrome ad blocker has already changed the web bar wired. The internet is really big. Really big, guys. You might see fewer ads on the web from now on, but you probably won't. On Thursday, Google Chrome, the most popular browser by a wide margin, began rolling out a feature that will block ads on sites that engage in particularly annoying behavior, such as automatically playing sound, or displaying ads that can't be dismissed until a certain amount of time has passed. Google is essentially blacklisting sites that violate specific guidelines, and then trying to filter all ads that appear on those sites, not just the particularly annoying ones. Despite the advanced hype, the number of sites Chrome will actually block ads on turns out to be quite small. Of the 100,000 most popular sites in North America and Europe, fewer than 1% violate the guidelines Google uses to decide whether to filter ads on a site. A Google spokesperson tells Wired. But even if Chrome never blocks ads on a page you visit, Google's move has already affected the web. The company notified sites in advance that they would be subject to the filtering, and 42% made preemptive changes, the spokesperson says, including Forbes, Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, and InTouch Weekly. It may seem strange that Google, which still makes most of its revenue from advertising, blocks ads at all, especially since the company says it will even block those served by its own ad networks. But Google hopes ridding the web of its very worst ads might discourage Chrome users from installing more aggressive ad blocking software that saps revenue universally. Wow. This story blows my mind. The Syrian government recently allowed only 29 of 600 critically ill patients in eastern Ghouta to be evacuated in a prisoner exchange. It is the latest example of the regime using a humanitarian situation as a bargaining chip, writes SAM's president, Dr. Ahmad Tarakji. This is an interesting perspective. Urban activists and residents in Syria's third-largest city say Assad's forces have intentionally destroyed traditional buildings in the city center, but not for military reasons. The driving force is a controversial urban planning scheme called Hom's Dream. At John D. Vashon, at Real Donald Trump, at Potu, at V, at Mike Bank, at Go, at SCNTMJLD, at Speak, at Lindsey Grahams, at Chuck Russell, at Gaudiz, at Devinu, at Dana Urbach, at House Dago, at Jared Kushner, at Donald Trump, at Eric Trump, at Ivanka Trump, at Fox News, at Folks and Friend, at Simon Malloy TH, CC at Real Donald Trump, at POTUS, at VP, at Mike Pence, at Gulf, at Senate, at Speak, and at Lindsey Graham's, at Chuck Grassley, at Gaudiz, at Devinu, at Dana Urbach, at House of Gov, at Jared Kushner, at Donald Trump, at Eric Trump, at Ivanka Trump, at Fox News, at Folks and Friends, Trump, Trees and Gov Traitors. At Chris Hayes. This whole discussion about whether the Russian operation impacted the outcome of the election is ridiculous because it is in a deep sense unknowable, and also very much not the point. At Bob Weiss 9/13/62. My daughter was brutally murdered in a mass school shooting. What makes you think your child want to be next? I don't want your fucking sympathy. I want you to stop voting for gun whore politicians. At Mulber. At Crazier 1911. When the government has a monopoly on violence.
Here's his barely intelligible, not to mention ungrammatical take on President Trump in a new ESPN podcast.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people and really don't give a about the people.
But wait, there's more gripping insight. ESPN host Carrie Champion asked James and fellow NBA star Kevin Durant about what she described as Trump's racist comments.
I feel like our team as a country is not ran by a great coach.
It's not even a surprise when he says something. It's not even a surprise. It's like laughable. It's like
it's laughable.
It's laughable and it's scary.
But it's also scary.
Right,
because
right.
I shouldn't be numb to your racism.
Right, right.
I shouldn't be numb to your behavior.
I'm numb to this commentary. Like, must they run their mouths like that? Unfortunately, a lot of kids and some adults take these ignorant comments seriously. Look, there might be a cautionary lesson in LeBron for kids. This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
At John and Roe, watching Ant-Man with my daughter. She makes me positive every time the science docent makes sense so I can explain. At this rate we'll be done in 9 hours. At Day Late, at Andrew Lawrence 17. Hannity Tonight, by Andrew Lawrence.
And spiritual wounds of this scourge for the rest of their lives. And every time we have another high-profile mass shooting, because remember, we have a Virginia Tech in this country every single day. Dear God, dare we call it ordinary gun violence. No other country has such an idea, but we have it. And every time we have another high-profile mass shooting, I keep hoping this is the time. This is the place where we will turn those hearts of stone to hearts of flesh, in the words of Scripture. And every time so far, I have been disappointed we haven't been able to do enough of it yet. We are going to do it. And the reason we're going to do it, look behind you and look in front of you and look across the street, and you'll see the reason we're going to do it, because the American people have had enough. We're here in solidarity with the 17 people who were killed in Parkland, and I'm here to tell you, this is living hell when you first go into this dark valley, and some people never come out of it. Some people find
at
a way.
Fox News, at Judge Jeanine, at FB, at Judge Jeanine. The FB should focus on what their job is, and what they should be doing, as opposed to looking for headlines. Hannity. At TrumpBabe69. I am catching a lot of flack for my pro-gun takes. Listen, libs, it is none of your damn business what I choose to protect my home and family with. At Vensmole. Left a dad of one of the victims looking for his daughter, not knowing yet that she had been killed. He is wearing a Trump shirt. Right, 8 years of what Obama and Hillary have done to the Democrat Party. They attack this poor dad relentlessly. Time to flood the earth again. At Tribala. The breathtaking success in piercing the inner details of a criminal conspiracy by Russia to tilt our election makes Mueller as the only federal government operation now protecting America from attack. For Trump to screw with Rosenstein or Mueller now would be, well, unwise. At Shareblue. Congresswoman forces White House to admit huge cost of Trump's parade. Trump's ridiculous military parade could last 5 hours and cost taxpayers $30 million. At Cernovich. Those numbers not only put CNN in last place behind MSNBC and Fox News, it puts the 247 Trump hating channel in last place by a country mile. Compared to last year, the far-left CNN has lost 30% of its primetime viewers and 23% of its total day viewers. At Thomas 1774 Payne. Pentagon issues warning for non-deployable personnel, deploy or be removed. The Pentagon on Wednesday announced a new deploy or be removed policy that could affect up to nearly 300,000 service members who have
Ну, конечно, как бы хотелось бы представлять свою страну, ходить в своей форме, на пьедестале слышать гимн России. Но учитывая все обстоятельства, как бы это лучше, чем ничего.
Как? Мы сами не ожидали, что будет именно таким будет решение, что вот категорично едет только женская сборная.
On calls on your desktop search of juvenile regulations for election to things to use 018.2018.
Знали, конечно, было, если честно, была какая-то даже не радость.
As well, Lebanon must be firm in Israel energy dispute news DW17.2.2018.
Я попала. А если честно, у меня какой-то даже радости-то не было, потому что, ну как так? Потому что есть ребята, которые непосредственно претендуют на все медали, можно так сказать.
Не было представлено никакого обоснования, по каким причинам им отказано. Как известно, во всем цивилизованном мире существует принцип презумпции невиновности. В соответствии с этим принципом, если ты невиновен, ты не можешь быть наказан. Если ты в чем-то подозреваешься, твоя вина должна быть доказана определенным образом в суде. Для тех спортсменов, которые не примут участие, которые не приглашены на игры, будут проведены открытые соревнования для них, наверное, для других спортсменов, которые этого пожелают. И эти соревнования пройдут на нашей территории, где это сейчас уточняется, но наши зрители вправе видеть наших любимых спортсменов, к которым они привыкли.
Russians indicted in Special Counsel Robert Mueller as probe. Totally East tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany Arts DW16 2.2018. Olympic skeleton athletes and helmets.
Yo la artesanía la hago con todo esto billetes.
In Syria's tangled conflict, a kind of regional war has already Syria deeply.
No hacer nada con ellos. Yo con esa paca no puedo comprar ni una harina, nada, no puedo comprar nada. Entonces como no, en verdad no puedo comprar nada, los uso para hacer artesanía. Doblo el billete acá como está acá. Lo doblo, ¿verdad?
The impact of Chechen and North Caucasian militants in Syria deeply.
Así como acá, ¿verdad? Después que termino de hacer las correas, empiezo a tejerlo con nylon para que quede todo unido. Acá sí.
Everything you need to know about the 2018 Berlinale film DW 14.2018.
Yo construyo la cartera.
The failed act on tip accused Florida gunman wanted to kill friends 24.
Bueno, acá hemos recibido los venezolanos pues, con el mayor afecto. Esperamos también la reciprocidad de ellos hacia nosotros y pues el impacto que hemos tenido, pues ya tuve el río de gente, esto es prácticamente a diario y pues la situación allá no está nada buena, porque la gente no emigra por gusto, la gente emigra por
Rosenstein on grand jury indictment of Russians. Trump praises Florida emergency services as he visits mass shooting survivors.
The governor of Florida, I should say, Rick Scott, has called for
the story of KFR Noble Hospital 41 minutes of hell Syria deeply.
This comes after a report that tips were missed regarding Wednesday's school shooting in Parkland that left 17 people dead and around a dozen injured. The FBI admits they had already received information
Syrian conflict isn't over. Don't you forget the Syrians almost Syria deeply.
Necessary protocols in pursuing the case. A person close to Cruz had called the FBI's hotline on January the 5th about his allegedly disturbing behavior and him expressing a desire to kill. U.S. Attorney
Weather forecast
General
World M1st and local weather report online Sky News.
Of Justice Department procedures. He called the deadly shooting a tragic consequence of the FBI's failures. Well, former MI5 intelligence officer Annie Méchant thinks the FBI should learn the lessons from its past
Munich
failures.
Security Conference as government nowhere near regulating
Bitcoin. Time and time again over the last few years, our intelligence agencies across the West dropping the ball in terms of getting tips, being aware of potential threats and not following up on those threats and taking out preventative measures. It seems lessons are not being learned. They need to have a proper review about, what exactly are the threats? What are they trying to do? How can they best protect the people of their country to protect them against these threats? And that doesn't seem to be done. I think what we're seeing at the moment in America is not so much Russiagate, but Intelligencegate, where we are seeing layer and layer and layer being peeled away from what appears to be deep state collusion to try and delegitimize
Russian toll in Syria battle was 300 killed and wounded sources.
And try and stop a rapprochement between America and between Russia.
Covering local news first for Carolina's family.
This is 7 News at 10.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Line 2 will be our current theme throughout the Berlinale film DW 15.2018.
That's right. The coroner's office and deputies are telling 7 News they've responded to the 100 block of Zimmerman Lake Road. They say this body was found in the woods in this area. We're told that the authorities are currently working to identify the body. It's a developing story. We'll keep you posted during this newscast.
A timeline of the Titan MC Jimmy's turned out to Syria deeply.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Looks like the doc's back.
Can you hear me now better?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So you've read it now. I mean, it's... I said, first of all, it was amazing to have this come in while I was doing the live chat. And again, I think it's solid recognition that Q is following what we're doing and supporting what we're doing and giving us additional information and evidence and backup. This is not only, today we had 3 remarkable things happen. Mueller said basically he has no evidence
became a war management strategy
of Russian collusion against Trump or anybody in Trump's campaign. That's done. He can only
Here are some of the most important quotes from Mueller's indictment to Russians.
In a nation of 300 million people or more, where millions of people were posting pro and con the candidates. What difference did 13 trolls make? And secondly, the FBI had to admit in Florida that despite this specific intelligence of this kid being a shooter, bizarre things being posted on his social media, etc., they ignored it because they're too busy running after impeaching Donald Trump. And third, Q dropping this Department of Homeland Security, which makes it absolutely clear there was now evidence, and it's going to be investigated, of massive Democratic Party voting fraud, hundreds of millions perhaps, several million illegals voting. Just listen to look at the language of this, what was there is shocking. Several, outside of Russian agents, U.S. citizens and foreign entities were successful in interfering in presidential election of 2016, state elections of XYZ, X elections, whereby several million of illegal and non-resident ballots, the irregularities, were counted, while legal ballots were improperly tabulated and or intentionally mishandled.
A timeline of the Titan MC
We believe
Jimmy's
these
turned out to
actions were a
Syria
coordinated
deeply.
attack against the democracy of our country. That's one of the most shocking statements I've ever seen written by a government official. The DHS will be submitting a final report to the White House, Board of Justice, other state and local agencies,
White House blames Russia for not
outlining our
picking up the
findings
most
as early
costly
as
cyber
March
attack in history. Wired.
2018. Well, it reportedly encompasses sampling of 22
Berlinale
counties across the
2018
United
MEETIS
States
film
that is
DW
strongly
16.2018.
based on the evidence provided that a mandate countrywide investigation be begun.
The fate of minorities in post-ISIS Syria and Iraq. Syria
that's
deeply.
it. That's game over right there for the Democratic Party. And
holy crap! If they found millions in just 22 counties, I assume they probably went with the biggest counties in the country. But
they went with the ones that were they knew had been adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, whatever ones they picked, they know it was a sampling that
Disney
proved
Channel
the point.
greenlight for
Right, it was
2019 original
probably
cast returns deadline.
specifically to represent a sampling of the rest of America, to extrapolate like a figure for what we can expect for what we're going to find across the rest of the country. There's probably
It also means that Hillary probably lost the popular vote as well as the
Hungary PM Christian culture
the
change your
electoral
left
college
info
vote,
hours there is a warrant for your mind.
and was a massive loser.
Yeah, by a lot more than they're reporting.
Except for the Democratic Party fraud, and this Democratic Party fraud is such that it's that combined with the FISA court application with the lying fusion GPS document with Grassley and Senator Graham already asking the Department of Justice to begin a criminal investigation against Christopher Steele. That's the basis for the FISA court-ordered electronic surveillance. And then the leaking at the White House, the unmasking, leaking the names, the press,
steel and aluminum imports.
crimes committed about all the electronic surveillance that was conducted on the Trump campaign.
Space aliens
took
and
that
want to take
information
us
to
out
the
when
White
we
House.
find infinite.
Of the second, third levels, the collateral levels, they revealed the names instead of Citizen A, Citizen B, which is the way it's supposed to be if you're caught collaterally. The investigation was only on Carter Page for the electronic surveillance, and he was an FBI plant. He had twice before, as an undercover FBI
American
agent,
figure skater
participated in Russian stings.
from using
But because he talked to Sessions and he talked to this one and he talked to that one, they then become under electronic surveillance. But they're supposed to be person A, person B, person C to preserve their Fourth Amendment rights, except that Valerie
checking things out. The internet really creeps me out sometimes. People are wild. Attorney and Tenenbaum peacemaker Ryan Cavowat writes about the deteriorating humanitarian situation for women in and around Idlib, where she co-founded the Georgianas and Dere Women's Peace Center with the EU last year. Scores of top White House officials lack permanent security clearances. NBC News. Crazy people everywhere. Watch the Olympics. Figure skating with Adam Rippon, alpine with Lindsey Vonn and more. By Carol Lee, Mike Memoli, Grayson Wilker and Rich Gardella. Washington. More than 130 political appointees working in the executive office of the president did not have permanent security clearances as of November 2017, including the president's daughter, son-in-law and his top legal counsel, according The internal White House documents obtained by NBC News. Of those appointees working with interim clearances, 47 of them are in positions that report directly to President Donald Trump. About a quarter of all political appointees in the executive office are working with some form of interim security clearance. White House officials said Wednesday they would not comment, as is their policy, on the nature of security clearances. CNN also reported on the clearances earlier Wednesday evening. It is unclear whether some employees have had their clearance levels changed since mid-November. ICE steps up hash enforcement at businesses in California, targeting employers and workers. Wow. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents put on their navy blue jackets and walked into a trucking company's office in Carson this week, sending waves of anxiety rippling through the building. In the lobby, a nervous office manager greeted the team from ICE's Homeland Security Investigations, twisting a black pen in her hands like a wet towel. A second manager joined them. "I see people with vests and cameras," he said with an anxious chuckle. "That's not good." The visit is part of a new wave in ICE's efforts to crack down on illegal immigration in the Trump era. Federal authorities are stepping up audits of businesses, hoping to catch employers who hire those here illegally. The agency's acting director wants to increase worksite enforcement 400%, part of a much larger effort to identify and deport those here without proper papers. During a 5-day operation in the Los Angeles area that ended Thursday, more than 120 businesses were issued audit notices. American figure skater Vincent Zhu is brilliant, amusing. The internet is really big, really big, guys. Gangneung, South Korea. The personality of American figure skater Vincent Zhu, who made his Olympic debut with a super program Friday, was neatly summed up by his social media response to a fan who recently asked what era he would visit if he could travel back in time. "If I time traveled," he wrote, "I would likely end up in outer space because Earth is moving at 67,000 mph and time travel is only time travel and not space-time travel. If you traveled back in time 1 second, you'd be about 1,116.667 miles into space away from the surface of Earth where you were just standing. To successfully end up on Earth after time travel, science would have to find a way to make up those miles. Teleportation of matter is not possible yet." Clearly, this isn't your average 17-year-old kid. But to answer the original question, Zhu continued in another tweet, "I would go back to 1984 to fully experience the release of Take On Me by A.H.A. So he's not just smart, he's funny. Physics creates new form of light that could drive the quantum of hash computing revolution. This is amazing." For the first time, scientists have watched groups of 3 photons interacting and effectively producing the new form of light. In results published in Science, researchers suggest that this new light could be used to perform highly complex, incredibly fast quantum computations. The discovery that photons can interact could be harnessed for quantum computing. Christine Daniloff/MIT. Keep up with this story and more by subscribing now. Photons are tiny particles that normally travel solo through beams of light, never interacting with each other. But in 2013, scientists made them clump together in pairs, creating a new state of matter. This discovery shows that interactions are possible on a greater scale. At Red Raccoon. It has been a rough week, so I am going to unwind with the pups. If you don't have a dog to cuddle with, you can borrow mine. You will hear this over and over again in our circle of friends, but it is worth repeating. Self-care is very important. Do something you love this weekend.
I see you up there, Melissa. Got her. Ah!
At Read the Skiff, at Real Donald Trump Brucey. No, Mr. President. The special counsel's indictment states no conclusion on issue of collusion or electoral impact of Russian interference on the election. The former is under investigation and latter is beyond their scope.
But they're not accused of rigging the election for Trump, but instead of waging information warfare to sow discord in the political system. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced the indictments and added this important caveat.
There is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election.
Did you hear that? No American knowingly took part in the meddling. And the plot had no effect on the outcome of the election. The facts, as we know them right now, support the president's argument, an argument we've been making on this show for months, that there was no Russian collusion. Trump, not surprisingly, took a bit of a victory lap, tweeting today, Russia started their anti-U.S. campaign in 2014, long before I announced that I would run for president. The results of the election were not impacted. The Trump campaign did nothing wrong. No collusion. Well, it certainly looks that way, but we don't know for sure what else Mueller may have up his sleeve. Though, I'll tell you who this totally vindicates. Conservatives and Republicans who've been warning people for years about how devious the Russians can be in this situation. Remember, when President Obama sarcastically mocked Mitt Romney's Russia warning back in 2012 during the presidential debate,
when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s or now,
at the kitchen stop. I did get up early to make biscuits for him.
For 20 years.
At Big Stick 2013. Wow, snack grabbers turn James Bond when armed robber enters game store. At Joy and Reed, at Philip Reen. Important point by at Philip Reen's Vladimir Putin didn't he prefer Donald Trump because he thought Trump would be a great president for the US. He preferred him because he felt he would be a disaster for our country and help destroy our leadership all around the world. At Magic Proof Cannon. Remember that blue flag that I showed you in Bitcoin earlier? It is breaking out. At Prison Planet. Wakanda ethno-state homogeneous no immigration nationalist isolationist protected by wills exploits own resources. Why is Hollywood pandering to the alt-right Black Panther? Why is Hollywood pandering to racist Trump supporters? Facebook at full.
Black Panther movie is a piece of shit. I haven't actually seen it, but we now apparently live in a world where the quality of a movie is determined before it's even released, solely on the basis of how woke it is. It doesn't even matter whether I've seen it or not.
If you give Black Panther a bad review, you're racist. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
The very fact that you're ordering me to like it or be called racist, the very fact that you're so fragile, you're talking about censoring bad movie reviews as hate speech to artificially keep the ranking high, means I'm gonna say it's a piece of shit. You know why? Because I don't like being told what to think. So it's a piece of shit.
You white people, stay the fuck out of our way on Feb 16.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if all white people boycotted Black Panther on its release date, given that they make up about 62% of the US population, Black Panther would be a total flop. For which you probably blame white people.
So I carefully did not buy Black Panther tickets for the opening weekend because I did not want to be the white person sucking black joy out of the theatre. What's the appropriate date for me to buy tickets? Is next weekend okay?
It's never okay, bigot. By buying a ticket, you could be taking up a seat that would otherwise have been taken by a black person. Why are you disenfranchising African Americans? So if you go and see the Black Panther movie as a white person, that's bad. And if you don't go and see it because maybe like me, you're not into movies about comic book heroes, that's bad too because it means you're racist.
Black Panther's Wakanda gets everything right about Africa that Trump got so wrong.
Yeah, let me explain something. Africa is a real continent with real countries. Wakanda doesn't exist. But wait, let's say it did exist. Wakanda is actually almost identical to the very stereotype of what you say Trump is trying to create in America. Wakanda is homogenous. Wakanda is isolationist. Wakanda is willing to exploit its natural resources. Wakanda is protected by walls. Wakanda doesn't allow immigration. Wakanda is based around national self-interest. That's literally everything you say Trump is bad for doing, but when fictional black people are doing it, suddenly it's amazing. BuzzFeed.
Finally seeing black people ruling their black country on their black continent, minding their black business, thriving with their black dollars and black resources.
Right, so now you're in favour of an ethno-state. I mean, gee, all you need to do is replace one word, and BuzzFeed and the alt-right would be on the exact same fucking page. So Black Lives Matter are portrayed as the villains. The hero is a nationalist. The hero is basically Black Trump. Why is Hollywood pandering to racist Trump supporters? But seriously, it sounds like a lot of social justice warriors are going to be very disappointed with this movie.
More than a movie, Black Panther is a movement. Black people have been striving to remind the world for years that Africa is a continent, not a country. A continent made up of nations rich with histories and achievements in fields from the arts to mathematics. But such representation has seldom been portrayed by Hollywood. Then along came Black Panther, which opens in theatres across the country on Friday.
Okay, this is Wakanda. And this is Africa. Africa is portrayed as a shithole because it's a shithole. It's not a high-tech Hollywood CGI futurescape. Africa has fundamental problems. Poverty, disease, starvation, poor infrastructure, rampant political corruption. 6 million slaves who were enslaved by other Africans. None of these problems are going to be fixed by the portrayal of a place that doesn't exist in a movie. That's like saying the movie Wall-E was going to fix the Earth's environmental problems. It's that fucking dumb. Also, why are all these leftists white-splaining to black people, telling them that the Black Panther movie is some kind of Emancipation Proclamation 2.0. I mean, talk about bigotry of low expectations. You think an entire ethnic group is so fragile it needs a comic book character for self-validation? Sounds pretty racist to me. If this movie is so empowering and such a force of nature, why can't you tolerate criticism of it? I mean, when dictators get 98% of the vote in sham elections, it's not normally because 98% of the population population really likes them. It's normally because there are consequences for not voting for a dictator. One reviewer gave Black Panther 3 out of 5. Pretty good review, right? No, not good enough. He was immediately threatened with physical violence. This is less like a movie and more like a cult. It's like the Church of Scientology. No criticism allowed. Oh, and isn't it funny how a real black hero is being completely overshadowed by a comic book character? Both are starring in movies, but Anthony Sadler helped stop a terrorist attack. He subdued a terrorist. He saved countless lives. He's a real hero. This guy put on a leotard and pretended to be the king of a fictional country. And which black hero does the entertainment industry worship and exalt? Leotard guy. The dude who looks like Catwoman got a sex change. That's your hero. Could it be anything to do with the fact that Sadler's movie is directed by an evil conservative? And despite being panned by the critics, Clint Eastwood's film, featuring a real black hero, did well at the box office. What's all this crap about first black superhero?
I mean, there's been tons of black superheroes. Storm, War Machine, Luke Cage over there on Netflix, Nick Fury, Cyborg over in the fucking DC universe, that fucking stupid flying guy with the fake wings, I don't remember what his name is, who cares? But there's lots of black characters. Tons of them. Tons of black superhero characters. And then they say, oh, well, he's not the first black superhero, but he's the first black superhero to ever have his own movie. That's not true either. There was the entire Blade trilogy. There was fucking Spawn. There was Steel. Terrible movie, but still a black superhero movie. Meteor Man, Blank Man, Hancock with Will Smith. You could even make a case for Men in Black, also with Will Smith.
Given its hype about being a watershed cultural moment for social justice, why are there no gay people in the Black Panther movie? Not so woke after all. I don't see many disabled, autistic, Muslim, furry dwarves in there either. Bigots. So the media's all like, conservatives are angry at the Black Panther movie. They're so triggered. I'm not angry at the movie. I'm unimpressed by your transparent effort to exploit the movie for racist, divisive social engineering by relentlessly shoving it down everyone's throats, telling us what we can and can't think, lecturing us on how we should behave because of our skin colour. No, fuck you. Not liking the crappy feminist Ghostbusters remake doesn't make me a sexist. Not genuflecting in front of Black Panther as the greatest movie of all time doesn't make me a racist. So if you're looking forward to seeing Black Panther, then good, I hope you enjoy it. But how did we get to the point where everything is so hyper-partisan, everything is so divisive, that a comic book movie becomes a huge wedge issue? Don't we have enough to bicker about and hate each other for already? Stop policing people's thoughts down to a level where they're racist if they don't like a movie. That's stupid. I want to call this movie a piece of shit. And then I will. This movie is a piece of shit. Please click the big red button to subscribe. It really helps me when you do that. And click the bell to allow notifications so you never miss a new video.
At 1776 Stonewall. Lindsey Vonn, as Trump would say, you're a loser. At CNN, after surviving a Florida school shooting, a teacher and registered Republican says she has a new view on gun laws. We need to take the catalyst out of the equation. The catalyst is the assault rifles. Nobody needs to own one.
The rounds go off in such succession, and watching those terrified faces come at me, and knowing that you're the adult in charge, and not only are you dealing with your life, but as a mother, these are all my kids. Of course. So I just, for me, it's not enough. Something has to be done in place. You have to have laws that take the catalyst out of the equation. assault rifles and semi-assaults should not be allowed to be purchased. There's no
Your
need
mind
for
has
them.
been changed.
There's no need for them.
Let me ask you one quick question, and then we'll finish. You told me you voted for Trump.
I did.
The president is coming down to Palm Beach, not too far from where we're standing, and he's talked about how he does want to visit with some folks down here. What do you want to hear from him? What do you want him to do?
I want him to put into place and get these legislators to start working together to fix the problem. Take the catalyst out of the equation. It's not enough to say
What's the catalyst?
The catalyst is the assault rifles. The semi-automatic and the assault rifles, they do not need to be nobody needs to own one. When they say they're using it for target practice, what are you targeting? There's no need. It's a power struggle for them to fire it off, and you know what? It is everybody's God-given right to defend themselves and to have weapons, but there are some weapons in this world that our children do not need access to.
Thank you for everything you did in helping those kids, Ashley. I am so sorry you had to go through that, but I appreciate you standing here next to me and using your voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At name again Dale. At our weekly press conference Thursday morning, Rep. Nancy Pelosi said that she prioritizes passing gun control legislation higher than winning the next election. I would rather pass gun safety. At Fed Up with Swum. Please warn people to be vigilant. Pray that officials stop this attack before anyone gets hurt. Cut jobs. At T. Penusa, Trump conspired with Russia, not because he thought he wouldn't get caught, but because he thought he could get away with it if he won. At Brian Gasonusa, at Theg the Devobria, at Joel Osteen sometime. And the Lord saith, when the flood doth come, closeth thy doors, for the poor and downtrodden masses canst pay thou not. So screw him at Theg the Devo.
If a delicious matcha tea donut is made and no one is there to taste it, is it delicious? If a photographer captures the perfect moment and no one ever sees it. Was it perfect? If a small business opens and no one ever buys anything, is it a business? It's not enough to just make something. Make your business stand out with a beautiful website. Make it Squarespace. Start your free trial today and use offer code SoundCloud to save 10%.
Berlinale 2018 Meet the Jury Film DW16 2.2018. Pop art pioneer Eduardo Paolosi in Berlin Innovative and Irreverent Arts DW08 2.2018.
لسان المدينة القديمة صار لها مخالفات في البناء وبناء الحديث اللي هو بالشمنت احنا نقوله بالعامية والاسمنت الحديث. ما فيش ترميم وصيانة لولا ما فيش اهتمام في إهمال.
The Russia fact the 2016 election it is now undeniable wired.
الدور الثاني يبنى بالطوب الحديث وهو قاعد بالطوب الأول القديم من غير لا دعامات لا شيء فعلى طول يطيح. في مخالفات ما حدش يوقف في البني جديد اللي ينبنى دورين وثلاثة وفي حتى 4 في حتى قالوا لي بالأنفنصير فما فيش حد يوقف لهم قاعدين مستمرين مش عارفة.
White House blames Russia for not Libya, the most costly cyber attack in history wired.
بيربوا قلبي.
Never afraid French 16-year-old snowboarder Ferrer wins surprise Olympic silver France 24. Now Parkland students are setting and keeping the record straight wired. Mueller indicts 13 Russians for meddling in US presidential election. France 24.
طبعا احنا في جامعة داوود في مبنى من الجهة الثانية مبني بالطراز الحديث شي ممكن.
Trump cabinet officials in ethics scandals.
هناك في غير مطابق للمفروض يكون عليه في المدينة القديمة بداية نشاط من بني جديد من تاريخي لبني حديث. هذه واحدة من المخالفات ملتف من غير عقاب، يعني هو ماشي تعالي حتى فوق من المستوى اللي المفروض يكون فيه. هذه بجنبها مثل ثاني هو تاريخي يعتبر، حتى هو كان مبيت للراهبات يعاني، حتى هو بجنبه يعني ممكن حتى مع الثقل هو يدير مشكلة. فمش عارفة
Coinbase blames Visa for issues around duplicate charges. Dreamers in limbo as Senate rejects immigration bills. France 24. Best story of KFR Noble Hospital. 41 minutes of hell. Syria deeply. Carnival parades run millions across Germany. News DW 12.2018.
منعرفش قداش ليه من سنين، لكن حسب ما قالت لي واحدة أمريكية قالت لي 1799 المبنى متهالك الداخل، وهذا الباب الخلفي بتاعه، والداخل واخدينها ديار 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 ساكنين فيها ناس مش معروفة ليبيين بغير وجه حق الله أعلم. في قضية مرفوعة بين عائلة السنين واللامسية وبين جهاز حماية المدينة القديمة. المفروض المبنى يتسكر، مش عارفة كيف.
Theresa May to call for new security treaty with Uttar cooperation. Israeli archaeologists unearth a Roman era mosaic. News DW 082.2018.
المدينة القديمة هي تاريخنا، هي ماضينا، هي في التاريخ أقدم مدينة في شمال أفريقيا كانت تستخدم للتجارة من الفينيقيين بيزنطيين الأغالبة، غير إن هي كان فيها الأمازيغ زمان، وبعدين جوها العرب، وقبل ما يجوها حتى المسلمين الفتوحات الإسلامية رومان. فمدينة تاريخية مهمة اللي مروا عليها نقول غزوات واحتلال وكل واحد بناء اللي بناه واللي طيح واللي دار، لكن ظل تاريخ مهم فضل حافظوا عليه. ما فيش حد يفرط في تاريخ بلاده ماضيه.
Understanding America's endgame in Syria deeply. Germany considering free public transportation to take on air pollution. News DW 13.2018.
Is it delicious? If a photographer captures the perfect moment, then no one ever sees it.
Nobel laureate Tutu Oxfam ambassador rolling America latest news scandals and headlines.
Is it a business? It's not enough to just make.
في ناس قالوا لي في مباني لما هدوها وصينوها من أول جديد لقوا فيها حاجات قديمة، ففي حاجات بدأت تنخنب وتنباع برا. يعني أعتقد واحدة من حاجات التوراة بتاع اليهود اللي تهرب لتونس قالوا طلع من المدينة القديمة. معرفش مين المسؤول. هذه حاجات مخالفات المفروض المبنى يطيح يجوا يحفروا ويدوروا يشوفوا شو مفصل. فيش حد مهتم.
The humanitarian crisis in Syria's northern de-escalation zone. Syria deeply.
الحملة حسيت ان ردة الفعل اكثر كانت على تويتر من الفيسبوك. تويتر في ناس هلبة يعني
Activist artist Klaus Tate provokes at age 18 as an exhibition arts DW 92.2018.
قديمة سواء صوري أو صور غيرهم ويكتبوا على المدينة وينقذوا المدينة، فكان في تأثير. هو حد مش متوقع.
Syria 2018 the major issues for the year ahead. Syria deeply.
التأثير والحركة والضجة اللي قاعدة تصير على تويتر أكثر، هي اللي كانت لها ردة فعل، والناس بدأت تتواصل مع جهات معينة بالموضوع هذا.
Searching it up, give me a sec. I hate going into the deep dark parts of the internet. Tillerson in Beirut wades into Lebanon-Israel border dispute. I found this scraping the internet. I feel so dirty now. Beirut app, US. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson on Thursday said there are constructive discussions underway on how to break a stalemate between Lebanon and Israel over gas drilling rights along the country's disputed maritime border and maintain calm along the volatile frontier. Tillerson was in Lebanon on a brief stopover amid a growing dispute between Lebanon and its southern neighbor, Israel, over oil and gas reserves, and Israel's construction of a border wall that Lebanon says encroaches on its territory. The U.S. has been trying to mediate in the dispute, and Tillerson suggested Israel should stop building a border wall until the border between the two countries is agreed on. We've asked no one to give up anything. Rather, we're looking for a solution, Tillerson told reporters at a joint press conference with Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri in Beirut. He also said Hezbollah's growing arsenal was a threat to Lebanon's security and called on the Iranian-backed militia to cease its activities abroad to help reduce tensions in the region. The U.S. considers the Shiite Lebanese group, which has sent thousands of its fighters to shore up President Bashar Assad's forces in Syria to be a terrorist organization. Hezbollah's presence in Syria has only perpetuated the bloodshed, increased the displacement of innocent people and propped up a barbaric Assad regime, Tillerson said at the news conference with Hariri, a Western ally whose coalition government includes the group Political News International and Akash Politics bar Sky News. The internet is really big, really big, guys. The PM wants to set a new precedent with the bloc through a deep and special partnership, as Europe's security is our security. Jeremy Corbyn's spokesman describes the claims as having more plot holes than a bad James Bond movie. There's probably been nothing like that since the Profumo affair or Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed, Henry Bolton tells Sky News. The German Chancellor wants a weak relationship as close as possible, once Britain has left the bloc in 2019. Wait, you need to hear this. With Syria's healthcare system crippled by conflict, women and children are dying from treatable illnesses. One doctor and his team are providing them safe, dedicated medical care by building hospitals below ground, out of the reach of airstrikes. John Kelly wants tighter White House security clearance rules and PR. The internet feels like a Wild West, or maybe that's just you crazy people. Former White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter left, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and White House Senior Advisor Jared Kushner crossed the White House South Lawn in August. Kelly on Friday outlined new security clearance protocols after questions were raised about Porter's access. Alex Brandon /@pie caption. Former White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter left, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and White House Senior Advisor Jared Kushner crossed the White House South Lawn in August. Kelly on Friday outlined new security clearance protocols after questions were raised about Porter's access. Updated at 8:05 p.m. Chief of Staff John Kelly on Friday called for an overhaul of White House security clearance standards, following criticism that a top aide was allowed to remain on the job despite allegations of domestic abuse. The new rules come in the wake of Rob Porter's departure last week after reports that he had abused his two former wives. Porter was working as the White House Staff Secretary on an interim security clearance. At Irritable. From editorial calendars to user studies, event marketing to sprint planning, Irritable does it all. At Fortune. Robot does a magic trick. At Level Under 1. Es decir, mis papas vivían así pro en nuestra era es inconcebible. Dije cosas me pongo a pensar que cuando mi pap quería estar sus amigos o mi mom solo tenía opción a llamar la casa. YCSQ estaba YC Southeast Love Passable. Incredible no. At trademark MEETIS. We would all be far better off if we would focus the conversation on targeting foreign influence in American elections, rather than obsessing over a Russian collusion narrative that is based nowhere in reality. At VP, in Hidalgo today, saw how narrow the Rio Grande can be to cross. We need a ampersand, we need more personnel. Last year, there was a 73% increase in the number of assaults on Border Patrol agents guarding our southern border. We need more personnel to make sure our border is safe. At Tel Aviv. It is perfectly okay if Trump thinks this indictment exonerates him. Athens Hemingway. My Oregon husband is trying to compete with Colorado, me about which state is better. Sad. At Fed Up with Swum. At Sarah Palanusa. Good grief. Watching liberal responses to the devastating shooting in Florida on Wednesday is like driving by a car accident on the side of a highway. You don't want to look. You know you shouldn't to look. But at Salul, all students need to stage a nationwide walkout in the United States. Send a message to those in office that we demand our schools be made safe.
Himalayan Birkin, cocaine, lit it up, pop shit, I hit him up, I'm talking color money, purple yin and blue germ, I got brown lira, I ain't talking about Ross, bitch, I'm that nigga on Viagra dick, that means I'm on the way up, and you can stay up, P.O. say I can't get high, hop in the helicopter, Uber said, go all the way up. Shorty, what you want, shorty, what you need, my niggas run
are in the second. When you go down to the second large paragraph, in an effort to preserve. Are in the second. When you go down to the second large paragraph, in an effort to preserve, I just grabbed about the first 5 lines of that.
Okay, we got another one.
Yeah,
there it is. We saw it. Yeah, I'm sorry. It just came up on mine. That darn GitHub.
Don't worry, I'm watching.
Well, it's interesting to see the reference to JFK
Hezbollah
right
Lebanon must
away.
be firm in Israel energy dispute. News DW 17.2018.
That certainly resonates with me. I'm just looking through the
Take it to the top.
Yeah, Kennedy should have broken the CIA up into 1,000 pieces and thrown them into the wind like he promised to do, threatened to do.
Yeah, he should have never alerted him.
Total East tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany. Ars DW 16.2018.
Captain Corsi?
Yes.
So my concern right now is how much the CIA did to other countries that makes you stop and pause about uncovering other things because of the threat of open war.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my focus right now is that if we can figure out or validate what this DHS report is, and I bet it's on the White House website, but in a blanked out page. But it's there, but the page is kept for the public yet. Yeah, the Orion and the MK Ultra programs. They focused on that. They got that. Hold on. Okay, did you upload the link? I want to take a look at that link to the White House. Did you get that uploaded? Oh, here we go.
Israeli archaeologists in a thorough and mosaic news DW 82.2018.
Yes, sir, that's the one I just posted.
And what it was on? What's
Here
your
are
name
some of
in
the
the
most
posting?
important quotes from Mueller's indictment of Russians.
Venerable V. Okay, hold on.
Everything you need to know about the 2018 Berlinale film GW 14.2.2018.
It didn't post the link. Just it slows up.
Exactly. That's what I've been trying to explain. When I posted into the live or the Discord, it shows
Olympic
up on
skeleton
the
athletes and
graphic.
helmets.
But when I put it into my browser, it doesn't work.
Okay. It's probably a page on the White House website that hasn't released yet. Let's just do another search here and one more search.
It opened for me, Dr. Corsi.
What's it say?
Counting the homeless on the streets of Paris, France, 24.
Earlier today, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced indictments against 13 Russian nationals.
Yeah, that's just the announcement of the indictments. Is there anything about the voting?
Canada
President Trump says it's more important than ever before to come together as Americans. We cannot allow those seeking to sow confusion, discord, or rants or to be successful. It's time we stop the outlandish partisan attacks, wild and false allegations, and far-fetched theories which only serve to further the agendas of bad actors like Russia and do nothing to protect the principles of our institutions. We must unite as Americans to protect the integrity of our democracy and our elections.
This is what I wanted to find right here. Here's a report by The Hill, and it was on January.
Copycat of Facebook tried to squash Snapchat wired.
So about 3 weeks ago. The co-chairs of the Congressional Task Force on Election Security want to know what the Department of Homeland Security plans to do now that Trump has turned the work of his defunct voter fraud commission over to the agency. In a letter Tuesday, Representative Bernie Thompson, Democrat Mississippi, and Robert Brady, Democrat Pennsylvania, as DHS Secretary
Olympic alpine skiers celebrity races were held on and off the
clarify what
slopes.
the agency's responsibility are related
Life
to the
under siege, how people struggle to survive in
Commission
Eastern
on
Syria
Election
deeply.
Integrity dissolved by President Trump earlier this month. The commission, which Trump created to
He
investigate
learned
his
his 13 Russians for meddling in his
unfounded claim that
presidential
millions of
election,
people
France,
voted
24.
illegally in the 2006 presidential election was plagued by controversies
The
and
Black
legal
Panther movie is
problems.
racist. Alex Jones in
Rather
Colors, there
engage
is
in
a warrant
endless
for your mind.
legal battles at taxpayer expense, Trump directed the DHS to examine the commission's initial findings and determine the next course of action. Brady and Thompson expressed concern that Trump's order
has
will
already
distract
changed
the
the way
DHS. Okay, so Trump turned
Federer
it
becomes
over to
oldest
the
world number one, France,
DHS.
24.
And what we have tonight from Q is a preview of what it's going to say. Here's the article.
Q says, clown greater than no agency, no such agency. RIP JFK, we will succeed. The pyramid will collapse. Think shell.
Right. It's all a shell. Pyramid's going to collapse. We're going to find out the truth about all the DHS election unit. Let's see.
Monon posted something up in the Discord chat. It says on February 16 and February 18, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, together with the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, will sponsor a classified briefing for the election officials from all 50 states.
What date?
February 16 and February 18.
Well, that's today.
'18's on Sunday.
Maybe it's information that was released today at the hearing or something, or whatever that
Or maybe they're having it at Mar-a-Lago.
Post that. Can you post that?
It's posted in the Discord chat under Moanon.
Nobel laureate with Sox and Ambassador Olympic JRTS 6 Scandal Friends 24.
I just read that
Lunar New Year's Eve
the
and
8
BC
of
loops
them
up
met
to the towns
2 days
worldwide.
ago in Atlanta.
A classified briefing. Well, I think we saw part of a classified document. That's what that probably is.
How to disrupt an election fake news. Fraud in Facebook.
Focus on increasing awareness of foreign adversary intent and capabilities against the state's election infrastructure, as well as a discussion of threat mitigation efforts.
That's the reason for the brackets. That's stuff that's not, probably stuff that's not redacted in the actual document, but we don't get to see those names yet.
Right. Okay, so that was a press release from the DNI and DHS. Going to any other press releases. Let's see, press releases.
DNI being Director of National Intelligence?
Yes.
Dr. Corsi, Trump's just posted a video through Fox News. It's about a minute, something long. If you want to see it, it's at the bottom of the chat.
Okay, what did he say?
Israeli Attorney General adds police probe into Netanyahu.
Like millions of other people.
I don't see it yet. Hold on.
It's coming.
Okay. Well, we have here the indictment now for the 13 Russians.
Theresa May to call for new security treaty with Utartain cooperation.
Is this the INET coder download?
Start your free trial today.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking
INET. On grand jury indictment of Russians.
It's not letting me post it at the moment. Other people are
Probe
posting
on Russian
it.
bots with Twitter after Parkland sheets and wired.
That's something else that I found that was posted yesterday.
What's that?
Ability of DHS to enforce immigration laws, creating a
phrase as
mass
French economy powers of the French 24.
Aliens, including criminals.
Wait a second. It's proposed.
Why Trump has play-by-play made sex scandal is just another holiday in his presidency.
The post is up.
Trump. What did he say? Okay. He's probably just talking about the Florida shooting.
Right.
He's just going to talk about that.
The press release that was just put up is about that ODNI, DHS, FBI, and the election officials from all 50 states.
Right.
Stormy Daniels will interview inside her affair with Donald Trump.
What we got today is clearly something that was distributed at that meeting. I mean, that's how I'm interpreting it. And it is Q had knowledge of what
Dozens
it was.
of Russians are believed that the U.S. backed Syria attack. The New York Times.
He didn't make it up, and it's not going to be fake. It's going to be real. It just hasn't been made public yet. Okay, they're asking for me to give a recap. Let me give a recap, and then it's probably going to be family time here.
ICE steps up enforcement at businesses in California, targeting employers and workers.
Wait a second.
Matt White, national political columnist for Yahoo.
What we had today is, first of all, the Mueller late in the day, Rosenstein from the Department of Justice made an announcement that Mueller has indicted 13 Russians for interfering with the election, wanting to favor the election for Trump, but that none of Trump or none of his associates were involved in this. They weren't complicit.
Russian mercenaries try testing the US, lost 300 troops. Reports say
and it appeared to be, that that's really about all he has on the Russian collusion. We know that the other aspect that was under consideration
Find stuff more on. This is an interesting perspective. Putin's shadow-hash army suffers a setback in Syria by the New Yorker. This story blows my mind. Russian soldiers patrolling Palmyra, Syria, in 2016. A U.S. airstrike last week in eastern Syria reportedly killed scores of Russian citizens who were private military contractors. For the first time in 50 years, U.S. and Russian military forces have engaged in direct combat. Soldiers from the two countries last clashed during the Vietnam War, when Soviet soldiers shot down U.S. warplanes with anti-aircraft weapons. Last week, on February 7th, the two powers met again, when U.S. drones attacked helicopters, and fighter planes struck a contingent of pro-regime fighters near Deir ez-Zor, a Kurdish-held city in eastern Syria. As would emerge later, among those killed were up to 100 Russian citizens who were fighting in Syria as private military contractors, a shadowy mercenary force whose presence in Syria is not officially recognized by the Kremlin. Not long before the attack, the Russian contractors, fighting alongside members of pro-Assad tribal militias, carried out a strike against a compound held by Syrian Democratic Forces, a Kurdish-led army, backed and advised by U.S. troops. During the maneuver, the Russian contractors crossed the Euphrates River near the town of Kushum, reaching what Moscow and Washington have agreed is the dividing line separating their respective zones of authority. U.S. Special Forces embedded with the SDF, in the ferocious response from the air. According to investigations in the Russian press, as many as 2,000 or 3,000 Russian contractors are involved in military operations in Syria. Most of them are linked to a structure called Wagner, a company that has the parent ties to Evgeny Prigozhin, a one-time St. Petersburg restaurateur who became close to Vladimir Putin in the early aughts. Prigozhin ended up with lucrative contracts to supply food to the Russian army and has taken to overseeing the sorts of enterprises that the Kremlin finds useful but doesn't want to manage itself. On Friday, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, indicted Prigozhin and 12 other Russian nationals for allegedly interfering in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. He is widely linked to so-called troll factory in St. Petersburg, where hundreds of people are paid to sit and create fake social media accounts to foster discontent and confusion in political discussions online. Wagner was named by its commander, a former Russian Special Forces officer named Dmitry Utkin, who is a fan of the German composer. In 2016, Utkin was photographed at a Kremlin ceremony in which Putin handed out awards for military valor. Many of the Wagner mercenaries previously fought with pro-Russia rebel groups in eastern Ukraine. Their motives run from financial necessity to a kind of ultra-patriotic enthusiasm. According to the Conflict Intelligence Team, an online monitoring group, average monthly salaries at Wagner range from 19,000 to 250,000 rubles, or about $1,600 to $4,400. Wagner fighters tend to be run from a hodgepodge of experienced veterans, war adventurers, and committed nationalists. A field commander who fought in Ukraine and knew many of those who died in Syria told the Russian paper Moskovsky Komsomol that they believe they went to defend the Russian world on the edges of our sphere of influence. So write it like this: they perished for the sake of their homeland, and for an idea. Tillerson tries to ease tension with #Turkey to ANPR. Whoa, now that's spicy. Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, right, shakes hands with U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, left, after a joint news conference following their meeting Friday in Ankara, Turkey. Buranaz Vilici/Apide caption. Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, right, shakes hands with U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, left, after a joint news conference following their meeting Friday in Ankara, Turkey. There are signs of thawing in the tense relationship between the U.S. and Turkey, as U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visits Turkey's capital, Ankara, and holds lengthy talks with leadership. The center rift between the two countries is over Syria. The U.S. supports and arms Kurdish fighters in northern Syria, seeing them as key allies against ISIS. Turkey describes them as terrorists. We have always been clear with Turkey that the weapons provided to the Syrian Democratic Forces will be limited, mission-specific, and provided on an incremental basis to achieve military objectives only, Tillerson said at a press briefing with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu. Internet rages after Google removes view image button, #Voe into Getty Ars Technica. This is a good story, check it out. This week, Google image search is getting a lot less useful, with the removal of the View Image button. Before, users could search for an image and click the View Image button to download it directly without leaving Google or visiting the website. Now, Google Images is removing that button, hoping to encourage users to click through to the hosting website if they want to download an image. Google's search liaison, Denise Sullivan, announced the change on Twitter yesterday, saying it would help connect users and useful websites. Later, Sullivan admitted that these changes came about in part due to our settlement with Getty Images this week, and that they are designed to strike a balance between serving user needs and publisher concerns, both stakeholders we value. Almost 2 years ago, Getty Images filed antitrust charges against Google in the EU, taking issue with the company's image scraping techniques to display image search results. Earlier this week, Google and Getty Images announced a partnership, and Getty withdrew its charges against Google. Changes like the removal of direct image links were apparently part of the agreement. On one hand, Google Images focuses mainly on the content of the image and doesn't do much to display the copyright status of its search results. With a View Image button, it was easy for users to go directly from searching to downloading an image, without ever seeing or considering who owned the image. Image piracy is a rampant thing on the internet. The images I take for device reviews are regularly stolen, for instance, and content creation firms like Getty Images could see the View Image button as promoting image piracy. On the other hand, it makes image search less useful for users, requiring extra clicks to get the image you want. Adhering to copyright law is still the user's responsibility, and a whole lot of images on the web aren't locked down under copyright law. There are tons of public domain and Creative Commons images out there, like everything on Wikipedia, for instance, and lots of organizations are free to use many copyrighted images under fair use. There are also many times when content on a page will change, and the visit site button will go to a web page that doesn't have the image Google told you it had. Russian mercenaries try testing the US, lost 300 troops, reports stay by. I was sifting through some things and I found this. More details have emerged from a massive battle in Syria that is said to have pitted hundreds of Russian military contractors and forces loyal to the Syrian government against the US and its Syrian rebel allies, and it looks as if it was a mission to test the US's resolve. Bloomberg first reported this week that Russian military contractors took part in what the US called an unprovoked attack on a well-known headquarters of the Syrian Democratic Forces, a rebel cohort the US has trained, equipped, and fought alongside for years. Reuters cited several sources on Friday as confirming that Russian contractors were among the attackers and that they took heavy losses. The purpose of the attack, which saw 500 or so pro-government fighters get close to the US-backed position in Syria, was to test the US's response, Reuters sources said. Initial reports said pro-government forces launched a coordinated attack that included about 500 troops, 122mm howitzers, tanks, and multiple launch rocket systems. A source close to Wagner, the Russian military contracting firm, told Reuters that most of the troops were Russian contractors and that they advanced into a zone designated as neutral under a deal between the Russian military and the US-led coalition against the terrorist group ISIS. Macron praised as French economy powers ahead. France 24. The internet is really big, really big, guys. International News 24/7. Latest update to 0180215. Long seen as the weakest of Europe's major economies, French GDP is expanding at its highest rate in years, with optimism underpinned by the pro-business agenda being implemented by the government. Statistics agency INSEE said Thursday that unemployment had fallen to 8.9% nationwide in the final quarter of 2017, down 0.7 percentage points to its lowest level since 2009. The uptick in the jobs market has led some companies to warn about skills shortages, a dramatic turnaround for an economy that has consistently lagged its better performing neighbors.